everybody, I'm Sarah and I'm a recorder player. Welcome back, nerds. Today's video is very nerdy, but it's one you've been asking for. How should you use a metronome? I think a metronome can be really useful for pulse, speed and rhythm. And yes, I'm going to go into what those all are. Used correctly, it can help you to practice your music and to basically understand what's going on. By the way, this video topic was requested by the students on my last online course. I will be launching another online course of Level Up Your Playing later this month, so check out my website for more details. A metronome is a device that gives you a steady beat, a steady pulse. Growing up, I had a metronome that looked like this, tick, tick, tick. Throughout my student years, I had a bunch of electronic metronomes like this. They always got lost in practice rooms / stolen. And now I have a metronome app on my phone. I think it's just called Metronome. So you set it to the appropriate metronome mark and that tells you how many beats it will give per minute. A metronome mark of 60, that's equal to a second, 60 seconds in a minute, right? A metronome mark of 120 will be twice as fast because that's 120 beats per minute or 2 per second. My metronome goes up to 500 beats. Some pieces of music will give a set metronome mark that you will play it with. Others give more a descriptor like largo meaning slow or presto meaning very fast. What is interesting is in a lot of classical music, you often see the same metronome marks coming back a lot. 60 is a really common one. Not only is it the number of seconds per minute, but a lot of people say it's a resting heart rate. Why was this? Well, metronomes haven't always been used. Not everybody had access to a metronome. So a lot of musicians would take the tempo from more physical things, for example, your heart rate or the rate at which you walk. My phone metronome is super handy in that it classifies different metronome mark numbers into their tempo categories. So you can take your piece of music at the start, see if it says allegro, presto, moderato, and then find the corresponding number. So this is all to do with tempo or speed. It tells you how fast or slow your music goes. And that's one of the things that your metronome can be really useful for, speed. The other two things are pulse. Pulse is keeping the beat of your music steady. The pulse like a heartbeat. This means helping you not to rush or to drag, not to speed up or slow down. Connected to this is rhythm. How to explain what rhythm is? You could say you take a pulse and either connect those beats together or divide them up to create variety. But the important thing is that it is built upon a solid pulse. How can this be useful to us? We're not going to pick up the recorder yet. I first want you to get familiar with holding a pulse. We're going to start with a moderate speed. Let's choose 80 beats per minute. I first just like you to try and clap along, see if you can match this beat. And to do this, I'm not only listening and reacting, but I'm really internalizing that pulse and feeling it. Once you've got that, let's see if we can do this double time. That means twice as fast. It sounds scary, but you're just adding a second clap in between. Try switching back and forth between the two. All of these exercises, I want you to take them away and try them in your own time. You can follow the video, but you'll get more out of it if you actually spend time on each one. Don't forget to do this in different tempos, otherwise you'll be amazing at 80 beats per minute and you won't be able to do any others. I'm now going to try this with my recorder, just on one note, playing along with the metronome. Again, take each of these elements and practice it in your own time. Splitting this one pulse into two notes we call subdividing. And yes, you guessed it, you can subdivide your note into any number of beats. that, we'll come back to it in a second. I now want to introduce the concept of a phrase. These aren't only endless ticking sounds going on forever, nor are they separate entities, but a phrase is, you could say, it's the feeling of movement in the music. That's what really makes it feel like a sentence, something that hangs together and it's not just going I'm going to put my metronome on 4 beats per bar. We're going to play along just single notes on the recorder, but I really want you to try and feel that first beat as the important one. Always going 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. It's always carrying there. If you can't hear that so much in how you're playing, it's more of a feeling for yourself. Feeling these beats leading onto one another as a phrase helps it to sound so much more musical. So we've played along with the beat, we've subdivided the beat. Feel free to do this in your own way. I like to put the metronome on and just improvise a rhythm along with it. I know, I'm a fun party person. Let's try that, shall we? Hours of fun, subdivisions, rests, tying notes over, try it all out. That can be enough for your practice routines for the next life, but why don't we look at it in terms of your music? So we're going to look at slow music and fast music a bit differently because I use the metronome in a completely different way. We're starting off with slow. This is where we use all of our practice of subdivision because we're trying to figure out if the rhythm we're playing is accurate. I have taken Telemann's Sonata in C. It's a good example. First thing I'm going to do is go in with a pencil and just mark in where my beats are so I can see in the music where I'm going to be hearing the metronome. I would then actually just put my metronome on and read along with the music. A really helpful thing is to do 1 bar at a time, making sure that you're ending in the right place. If you get it wrong, split it up even more, do half a bar. If you get it wrong, even try an individual beat so you can really figure out where that rhythmic mistake is. Taking bar 4 of my Telemann, I'm just going to go beat by beat, repeating it in a loop until I've really internalized that rhythm. Then when you've got those, you can start knitting them together. 2 beats together. And gradually you've got the whole phrase. So we're finding the pulse, subdividing the beats, putting it back together, and don't forget the phrasing. One of my favourite exercises to do, no matter the tempo of your piece, is putting a metronome on and only playing the notes that fall on the beats. In slow movements, this really helps to clarify the rhythm for me. Often I see if I've been doing something wrong. In fast movements, because the notes are going by so quickly, it often gives you a skeleton outline of the harmony. So whereas in slow movements, I'm using the metronome more for rhythmic detective work, fast movements, we're using it more for speed. But it's not only about getting it faster, it's about checking that you're not rushing or dragging. Checking that our pulse is stable. Allegro! I don't know, let me just scroll through on my metronome till it says Allegro. played that through, I can hear that I'm dragging and taking too much time in the rests where I breathe and passages where I'm moving my fingers a lot, which is most of them. You might be rushing and dragging in completely different places to me, but the important thing is recognizing where you're doing it, because that's the first step to correcting it. If there's a section that you can't play at that speed, it's fine. Stop and take that section slower. You've got to be able to play it fast before you can. You've got to be able to play it slow before you can play it fast. So if I'm using my metronome to help with speed, I've said this before, but I always like to go a little bit slower than I know I can because I don't want to practice in any mistakes. Let's try that. When I'm trying to speed something up, I always do 2 steps forward, 1 step back to keep consolidating what I've done, because often going slower is harder because you really have to control your fingers. Always feeling the phrasing. Which brings me on to musicality. So your metronome is a practice aid. It's a tool to help you with your pulse, your rhythm, your speed, but it's not the ending point. We often hear people saying, oh, that playing was metronomic, sounding like a metronome, as a bad thing. And this means no nuances in the rhythm or tempo or phrasing. I think it comes down to phrasing. Eventually what we want to do is feel that pulse so steadily, be sure of the rhythm, we know how it goes and feel comfortable in the speed, and then we can let it go a little bit, and from that solid basis play around with these things. Having that foundation first is essential, but then it's nice to leave it and play with it in your own way. What can this sound like? It can mean that within the pulse you pull the rhythm around a bit. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the phrasing. You don't have to be pulling the tempo around in every single bar to be musical. That might just make you feel seasick. So it's about feeling the tempo and feeling that phrasing on top of it, where the music is moving and going. So these were a bunch of ways in which you can use your metronome. It can seem a bit dry, but I promise you, take each of the elements I've spoken about in this video, really work on them in your own time, and you will see your playing just blossom. And don't forget, if you'd like more information about my upcoming online course, sign up for my newsletter below and you won't miss anything. That was it for today. As always, you can subscribe to my channel by clicking on my face down here. Over here's the Team Recorder Patreon where you can choose to support the channel. And here's last week's video. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!